Day 2 has come to a close. Now, looking ahead to Day 3, the theme will be Make America First. Joining me now to talk more about that, CBSN political contributor and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez and CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris. All right, so Leslie, let me start with you. What do you make of this lineup for tomorrow? We have on tap a number of speakers, including, of course, Governor Pence.
Definitely. People are waiting and anxious to hear from the governor, listen to some of the successes he's had in Indiana. Really, that is his calling card. Lowering taxes, this economic revival we've talked about. Basically, his experience in Washington, knowing how to get things done. And some people are going to say he has built this on the back of the previous governor, Mitch Daniels, who did a lot on insurance reform. Really positive things that can be taken to Washington. But it's really the look, the feel of how they're solutions-oriented. I also think when you have former Speaker Newt Gingrich, he's definitely going to continue that prosecution of Hillary Clinton like we saw today. Very firm, very harsh, and very direct.
What else, Steve, are we looking for
This is
tomorrow?
a real introduction to the American people. This is a guy who 86% of the country doesn't know anything about or has no opinion of him. And so this is an opportunity for him to not only sell Donald Trump, but sort of introduce himself to Americans. Where does he stand on the issues? What does he think about Hillary Clinton, and what are her problems, and why does he feel that she's not up to the task of being president? So that's really what I think most Americans are going to be looking for, is who is this guy that Donald Trump picked? We got a glimpse of it at the announcement over the weekend, but this is really the highest profile speech he's going to have of his entire career. And the biggest audience he'll have of his entire career.
So what are the challenges then, given that context, Leslie, that Steve just laid out about Governor Pence? A lot of people just don't know who he is.
And that's not necessarily a negative thing. I mean, if you think about Sarah Palin, people didn't know who she was either. And you recall several people saying, quote, a star is born. It was really this excitement. She had a lot of these kitschy lines, and people were, really feeling the uproar, and it was phenomenal, the energy. Let's just say we don't expect that to happen.
Mike Pence is not
from
Sarah
Governor Pence?
Palin
No.
in a
And you
lot
know
of
what?
ways.
In many ways, that's a positive thing, because I don't think you're going to have the deer in the headlight types of interviews. He's really a solid governor with a long record of working with the media, working with his state, and working in Washington. So more than anything, I think it's a measured approach. Most Republicans expect at these conventions, the solution-oriented, a little bit about their background, their humble beginnings, how they eventually got into public policy. Works really well when you're trying to introduce yourself, and maybe what his appeal, that halo effect he's trying to put on Donald Trump. That's what I think people are going to listen for, and that's what's expected.
I also think that the Republicans aren't necessarily known for the running mates really being the most exciting person, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just, you look back, and I'm thinking back, and you got to go back to maybe Jack Kemp in '96, where he gave sort of a rousing speech. He had a lot of energy. And then in 2008, I was standing just off stage when Sarah Palin gave that speech. And I have to say, that was a convention that started, it felt a little bit like this. That Monday night, they canceled it because it was a hurricane, I believe in Louisiana, and they thought it wouldn't be right while a hurricane was going on, and they shut it down for Monday. And then on Tuesday it came in, and there just was not a lot of energy in that arena in Minneapolis. And then Wednesday comes in, you do your speakers, and it was a fine night, but nothing overly energetic. And then Sarah Palin gets up there, and it was, I have to say, the energy. The place was as loud as anything. She completely overshadowed John McCain's speech the next night, and you're just not going to get that every 4 years. I don't think you're going to get that out of Mike Pence. But there should be, if for a successful convention, there should be a moment like that this week. The question is, when is that going to be? We haven't had it yet. I'm not sure Mike Pence is going to be the answer. You have Newt Gingrich. I thought Rudy Giuliani actually last night might have been the closest to that, to the most like a real exciting moment. But again, we're not talking about that because we're talking about Melania's plagiarism. So maybe Donald Trump. I think we're all going to be looking to Thursday night to really see the nominee himself and what he brings to this. And, he's a guy who's going to be reading off a script, but at the same time, is he going to have the flourish that Donald Trump brings to rallies? That's what we're all going to be looking for. Is that going to be a Sarah Palin-esque speech or not?
Yeah, a lot of people will be taking a very close look at how Mike Pence does tomorrow. All right, let's go back to my colleague, Vladimir Duthier, just across the convention hall. Vlad?
Elaine, thanks so much. We are still joined by Major Garrett, our chief White House correspondent, and CBS Sunday Mornings correspondent Mo Rocca. All right, guys, so we're wrapping up our coverage for tonight. Some final thoughts. Elaine was talking about the theme for tomorrow. It's going to be Make America First again. There's going to be a lot of talk about what we need to do to come back as a country to win again, as Donald Trump likes to say. Does it seem to you, Major, that some of the themes, some of the rhetoric coming out of the Trump campaign makes it seem as if America is completely falling off the rails? Not that times are tough for some people, which they are, but that you don't hear "Morning in America" again the way you heard with Reagan.
Morning in America.
Right, yeah. There's a U.
Yeah, there's a U added to that.
Yeah. So I've spent a lot of time on the road at Trump rallies and listening to the rhetoric. And one of the things that Donald Trump encapsulates with Make America Great Again is a hunger for America that his supporters believe is disappearing, and they have a great nostalgia for. Now, that is not an America that the Barack Obama and possibly Hillary Clinton coalition looks back fondly on. That's an America that is much more hostile to gay rights, for example, very hostile, if not completely hostile to transgender rights, not so really big on diversity or political correctness. It is a more white-centric America, if you will, in a large cultural matrix. And that's one of the underlying sort of messages of Trump, is that we can make America great again if this coalition of people who are dissatisfied would simply rouse themselves and get involved in politics and follow this messenger. We all looked at that as something that was kind of improbable several months ago. Well, it's now become a reality. It may be a transient reality. Donald Trump may be he is the Republican nominee, and he may lose, and this all falls apart and goes away. It's maybe a last gasp of this kind of appeal in American politics, but it is one that has resonated sufficiently to make him the nominee. And this idea of Make America Great Again and this nostalgia for a seemingly lost America. There's a great essay I read on the Atlantic website several months ago explaining why evangelicals were drawn to Trump when, by all sorts of reasons, they ought not to be. And it was this sense of nostalgia being more important than if Trump was in any way, shape, or form rooted in an evangelical Christian identity or experience. And they said, no, nostalgia trumps that.
Yeah.
If you will, forgive me. That
was pretty good. That was pretty good.
So bad.
That was pretty good.
Oh, please forgive me.
Well, no, I do have to say that some of the nostalgia is not only for an exclusionary America. I think that some of the nostalgia.
No, I'm not simplifying it in that sense only, but that is an aspect of it.
For sure.
Right.
I'm not saying that's all it is.
Right.
There is a sense that manufacturing has gone away, and will it ever come back? Well, look, a lot of economists, progressive economists, meaning liberal economists, conservative economists, say probably not.
Probably not, right.
Probably not. And promises that it will may be the emptiest promise of all. That suddenly there are these jobs that are either becoming or have become not just automated, but roboticized in terms of assembly lines, are not ever going to be.
There's one speech that's going to turn all of this, and it's going to be the speech delivered by Baron Trump.
We'll have to wait for it.
And I just, by the way, I need to, before this convention's over, I want to find out whatever happened to the guy who stole Marla Maple's shoes. Does anybody remember the crazy fetishist who broke into her closet and stole her shoes? If this is the Law and Order candidate, I want to know if he's been punished.
It probably was him. All right, we've got probably 20 seconds. I want to know if tonight you had to pick a drinking game, what would it be, Mo Rocca?
Drink every time you, for this entire convention, drink every time you hear the word amazing. and take 2 shots when you hear incredible.
Wasted. We'd be happily wasted.
Yeah. So America does not become a completely wasted country overnight. I'll say, get yourself some Lagavulin, the finest single malt there is.
Yes.
When Ted Cruz says James Madison, he'll probably do it twice. Take a nice long drive.
James Madison?
Yeah.